people will most worship whatever reflects them the most. So the example I thought of was if you ask a Christian now about their God, they'd say that they were perfect. But if you went back and asked someone from Greece about their gods, they describe them not as perfect, but as what reflects ancient Greece. Yeah. Ancient Greece was terrible to women, for example.
Tell me more. It's a fascinating idea because it calls me, because you've got these two gods that are existing kind of at the same time, like the Greek gods, and then you've got the Christian God, the Jewish God, and they're so dramatically different. And I mean, like in their essence. Go ahead.
So, the Greeks were terrible to women, so in order to reflect that in their gods, they would have Zeus chase women and rape women no matter what, often in animal-like shapes.
Yeah, there's always this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always.
Yeah, this.
All Poseidon.
Or
One of the people is.
he would shapeshift into their husbands to get with them.
Yeah.
Or animals.
Yeah, we're into animals. Yeah.
Very much so.
And then after Zeus would rape them, and his wife would find out about it, how would she react?
She killed the woman.
What's that?
She killed the.
Yeah, she'd kill the victim. It's like, damn you, husband, for doing this terrible thing. I'm going to kill your victim now. It's their fault for existing. But that's a really important thing, because there's this concept among the Greeks that humans are just the playthings of the gods, where like the humans are essentially just action figures. And like if any of you guys played with action figures when you were young, did your action figures ever like stop and turn their head and go, "Why do you make me do these terrible things? Why do you throw me off the table and hurt me? Why do you do these terrible?" No, the action figure never questions the controller. You know, the clay never complains to the clay maker, "Hey, why'd you make me into a pot instead of a plate or something?" And so, by the same token, humans shouldn't be complaining about how does the gods treat them. That's just what the gods do. You know, it's like if you have a baby and you put a baby in a room with a bear, what's the bear going to do?
Gonna kill the baby.
Yeah. How about you try reasoning with the bear? I'm gonna leave you in here. Don't kill the baby. Hey, I told you, do not kill the baby. Okay. And you walk out, and as soon as you walk out, he's going to eat the baby. Who's to blame for this?
No.
You, yeah. You put the baby in the room with the bear. It's not the bear's fault. The bear's just doing what it does. Yeah, it's like if you come in here and you give me like a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups, like, "Oh, can I store these in here? I'll pick them up after school." I'll say, "Uh-huh." In my head, thinking you can pick up the wrappers after school. And then you come in and like there's wrappers everywhere, and I'm sitting there with a tummy ache. Yes, I said tummy. Whose fault is that? Answer wisely. Whose fault is this?
Yours?
Mine?
No, the person.
No, seriously, whose fault is this? The person who gave me the bag, because the bear's going to do what the bear does. You put the baby, you give me Reese's peanut butter cups, you're putting a baby in the room with the bear. I'm just going to do what I do. Zeus is just going to do what Zeus does. He's just going to do Zeus shit. And then you know, humans, it's like, it's not really anybody's fault. It's just wrong place, wrong time. And then, of course, you've got the angry wife who then, you know, kills the victim and just shakes her finger at Zeus. Yeah.
Nothing happens.
What's that? Nothing happens, yeah. And Zeus just kind of goes like, "Oh, she's mad again." It's like, "Oh, I wonder why." If you transform into a swan and raped her, I wonder if that has anything to do with why your wife's pissed at you. And so you got this idea of like, I guess this is Zeus good in any way?
I mean, they say he's the creator.
Not the creator, no.
Well, I mean,
Prometheus.
Prometheus brought fire. So that would be a good example there. How about Prometheus? So the story of Prometheus is that Prometheus steals fire and gives it to humans. And that's how we come up with fire.
and then he got punished.
Yeah, it's bound up. So if this story is true, would Prometheus giving us fire be a good thing or a bad thing?
A good thing for us.
Yeah. And what do we do with fire?
We can cook.
We can cook. What else do we do with fire?
Warm light.
Warm the house. What else do we do with it?
Life.
And what do we barbecue?
ribs, like
People who piss us off.
Video of that.
murder.
We also use fire to kill people and to burn villages.
Video of that.
Arson.
Oh, we gotta get cookie bite parties.
Oh,
I was about to say, oh my god, how could you possibly? And I realized I've seen videos like that, so I probably shouldn't jump on that. So that's the thing, like, so when you look at Prometheus, it's like, well, what if humanity had never had fire? Well, I guess we never would have had buffalo wings, but then again, we also wouldn't have had the Inquisition. So is it good or bad? Yeah, I suppose so. Zeus, does he ever do any good? Yeah, he does good stuff. He isn't just all bad. I mean, we tend to think of the terrible things, just we remember those things, we kind of characterize him by that, but that's the whole point. Zeus is a psychological sketch. Zeus is what you look like when you attain a whole bunch of power. And no matter how much power you have, you're still accountable to somebody. You know? What's that? Yeah, you're always accountable to, yeah, exactly. In his case, it's his wife. Why wouldn't he have just killed his wife? Because you just don't do that. Come on, be reasonable. You know, well, yeah, but why? I mean, so you can do all those other terrible things, but you can't just kill. No, she's my wife. You can't do that. You know. So he still has like some sort of a moral boundary. No matter how bad a person is, people still have moral boundaries. It's like, I mean, this is one of the things that separates like a psychopath from a sociopath. A sociopath has some sort of a moral code. You know, they're not as frightening to us as a psychopath who just doesn't believe in anything. They're almost like a nihilist. But Zeus is a character sketch. If you attain a lot of power, and if you stand in a lot of ways above judgment, above good and evil, that's how you can end up. You know, you mean if people would do that? Oh yeah, of course. Of course, you look at war, I mean, Jesus Louise, I mean, I don't tell you, you've seen some people being set on fire, you've seen some terrible things that people do to each other when there's no accountability. Any of you guys, yeah, why not? Any of you guys see that video that was all over Twitter a few months ago over in Ukraine? They catch a dude and they castrate him.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I was sitting there watching, I'm like, are they really gonna, on Twitter? Sure enough, on Twitter.
It's on Twitter.
Reddit is worse.
Oh yeah, Reddit used to be worse.
It is still worse.
no.
Go ahead. I won't explain it. Go ahead and explain. What is castration? I won't explain it.
She's the one that asked me.
I know, I'm saying go ahead and explain it.
And
Basically, castration is for males when they get a knife with something sharp and they basically cut.
They cut the genitalia
our
out.
genitalia.
Remove the genitalia.
Remove
Yeah.
our genitalia.
Twig and berries on this guy. And he was a Ukrainian soldier, and they know where the video was taken. They know the person who actually did it because of facial recognition. And why? And think about that. It isn't just that you do it. It's that you do it and you video it. It's not just that you do it and you video it, then you say, oh, who do I send this to? And you send it to enough people, all of a sudden someone at CNN is like, are they really gonna? Oh yeah, they are. In other words, you're so far outside of accountability that you can even do stuff like that. That you're capable of doing stuff like that, and that you're okay with people finding out about it. That's the I guess the fulfillment of someone like Zeus. You know, does that mean that those folks have never done anything terrible? I don't know, man. And that's one of the things that gives me pause with all of it, because I don't know, man. Like, what's going on over there? I don't know. I know that CNN has an idea. I'm sorry, CNN has a story. I don't know how legit it is. I was driving just yesterday. I was driving down the street. I was going towards the Chula Vista Mall, and I saw the police station, and they have on their electronic billboard. They have a thing that says, I took a picture of it actually. It says, "We stand with the people of Ukraine," or something like that. I'm like, how about don't beat people first? Like, what the hell does that have to do with what you're doing as a Chula Vista Police Department? Why do you have to have a stance on some international issue that very few of us know jack shit about, especially if we're on the ground? We don't see it going down. You know? I don't know. But anyway, so you look at someone like Zeus, and you see like his wife, same thing, where she represents like an archetype of a type of a person. And all the gods represent, they're all flawed. They've all got, I mean, it's almost comedic. You've got Aphrodite, this goddess of love. Yeah, love. I guess we'll call it love. And who's she married to?
Asbestos.
The god of war.
Aries.
No.
No, she's married to Asbestos, but she has an affair with Aries.
Yeah, but then you want to put those two together? Like, what are you thinking? You know, the goddess the goddess of love is going to call in all kinds of reasons for jealousy and pair her up with the god of war. Well, there's a message there. There's something that's there. Those two people together represent a psychological sketch. And then you've got all those gods going on, and people kind of recognize it as such. And there's always this question like, did the people of Athens, do they really believe in all the gods? I actually really don't know. I know, of course, there are some people who did, but I don't know if it was like a widespread kind of a belief. And then at the same time that this is all happening, then you've got this dude wandering around the desert named Abraham, who eventually forms a religion called Judaism, and his God is so completely different from these. Whereas these gods are I don't want to say admired in a certain sense, but looked at as flawed and understood this way. And then they juxtapose that by this God who shows up, who is unflawed, without blemish, perfect, who creates everything. And you've got these two gods now that are existing in the same world. And you almost kind of, I mean, it's pretty easy to look at these gods and say, okay, that's an easy psychological sketch. They pretty well represent what's going on in the world, and especially in Athens at the time. They reflect that. And you can see that some of the stories of the gods, there isn't like one book of the stories of the gods of Athens. There's several stories of them. And you're going to see that sometimes they change over time. Sometimes one of the gods does this, and another time they do something completely different. And so there's differences in stories because it doesn't have to be consistent. The point of this is not that they're consistent. The point of this is that there's a learning experience going on there. But then you've got this one over here, who's the complete opposite, completely unchanging. Since, it says that it creates the whole universe with a word. Damn, how powerful is that? This guy can't stand up against his wife. This one over here creates the universe with a word. Decides it. And so then this one again is completely perfect without flaw. And this is a God that allows us to accept ourselves. This is a God who causes us to look away because we realize that we're not what we should be. This is a God that allows us to accept who we are and to find some patron saint God, or to find some patron God who can make us okay with what we are. And this is one that no matter what you do, you're never okay with what you are because you're unholy. You can't stand before them. According to this, you can't even look upon these gods. These folks thought, oh, they're over there on that mountain on top over there. If you climb the mountain, you can go see them. This one right here is just like you can't even look at them. They're so holy. In fact, that's not even the actual name because you can't speak the name of God. That's how holy it is. We can sit here all day and go Zeus, 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 Zeus. Yahweh isn't actually the name. And we have to stick vowels in there because there are no vowels in Hebrew. But the name of God is supposed to be so holy that no one actually knows it. In fact, there's this great story where Moses comes across this burning bush, and the bush speaks to him and says, remove your sandals, because the ground that you're standing on is holy. He recognizes the bush, this bush that's on fire in the middle of the desert, but not being consumed, just on fire. He recognizes it as the God of the Israelites. And so this thing tells him, hey man, you're going to go to Egypt. And he's like, oh, they're not going to listen to me. Some of those things are so strange. You come across a bush that's on fire and it's talking to you and you want to argue with it. Whatever. But I've done some terribly stupid things in my lifetime too. And so he approaches this bush and it tells him to go to Egypt. And he's just like, okay. Hey, who should I say sent me? Because he wants to hear the name. God won't say it. God says in Hebrew, Ehyeh Shayeh, which means I am what I am that I am. So now this word Yahweh just becomes this thing of I am. I am what? Yes. When? In other words, everything for all times. Before the foundations of the world, I am. And so now, again, this is a God whose name you can't even know. He's so holy. And then you juxtapose those two. What's going on in this culture over here that this is a God that manifests? It's odd. It's interesting. And at the exact same time that all of this is going down, you've got religions in South America and Central America. You've got religions all over Africa. You have religions in Asia. They're all popping up, and they're all looking like the societies in which they're born. But it's so odd, man. I wonder if any of us were to create a religion, if any of us would create this one. Yeah. So how do you go to heaven? Oh, well, you have to be perfect. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. And then off of this comes Christianity, and Jesus says, well, understand what we mean by perfect. Perfect in thought, word, and deed. Never once making a sin in any of those areas. Oh. That's a weird religion for someone to create because it excludes all of us from it. But I guess that starts to make sense. Why is it that the religion of Christianity comes along and starts to exclude people? It becomes very exclusive. To be part of it, well, you got to do some stuff to become part of it. First off, to become a Jew, you have to go to a rabbi and you have to ask multiple times to be allowed to join the religion. They'll tell you no the first few times. Then finally, the third time, they'll say, okay, come and learn about our religion. Because they want to make sure that you're somebody who really wants to know. It's a ritual. And then, then all of a sudden, Christianity pops up. And it pops up in the Roman Empire. And it's a weird thing to pop up because it's the complete opposite of what's going on in the Roman Empire at the time. The Roman Empire, they admire strength and power, perseverance, all these things. And then Jesus comes along and says, the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, what do you do if, Romans, they would enslave people as a sign of power over them. And then Paul writes a letter to Philemon. Philemon is a slave, and he asks, hey, I'm a Christian. Should I be freed because I'm a Christian? And Paul says, no, you stay in the bondage that you find yourself, just like every other situation in life. Complete opposite of everything that Rome stands for is Christianity. And yet somehow it spreads. It's a religion where the Romans are like, oh, there's some people over there who they look like they have some land. Let's go conquer them. And they grab their swords. Jesus pushes Peter back and tells him to put his sword away. He says, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. And he heals the damage that Peter does with the sword. It's so odd. Why? How can this possibly be emerging? Because it's a culture of people who are within a greater culture, who see moral degeneration all around them. All of those terrible things that you've heard about Rome, they're all true. In fact, they're more than true. It's worse than you've heard. And you've got people who are in there who see this moral decay around them, and they're thinking like, what's the cause of the moral decay? And they see all of these I guess, cultural norms, these cultural standards as contributing to the decay of everybody around them. So they come in at the exact opposite. What does Rome respect? Power and swords. We respect meekness. Rome says, take control of your destiny. Christianity says, accept your destiny, accept the destiny that God's got you in, and you work as best as you possibly can within it. And there's a reason that Christianity starts to form among the downtrodden, among the poor within this culture. It reflects the people that are kind of rebelling. It's a religion of rebellion. It rebels against the civilization, the culture in which it is. It completely rejects all of the cultural norms, social norms. And if you don't see a parallel between that and what's going on today, you're missing something really significant. Because a lot of the cultural movements we have right now, like for example, if you refer to like wokeness, it operates identically to a religion. It's the exact same thing. It's among the same type of people that where Christianity starts to form up from. It's a rejection entirely of, even to the point of like, you've got people on the internet saying, well, 2 + 2 doesn't have to equal 4. It can equal 5. It's to that depth that it rejects the society. It even rejects, scientific norms. And so, everybody know what an anthropologist is? Who can tell me what an anthropologist is?
What I've heard is someone who studies culture, society, culture norms.
Studies cultures, anthro, humans, mankind, a study of humans. She's an interesting one. She's actually a very interesting anthropologist. Another interesting anthropologist, Indiana Jones. People think he's an archaeologist. He's not. He's an anthropologist. If you watch the movies, it describes him as a professor of anthropology. So when she's talking about this, she's looking at religions from across time, from across continents, all over the place. And so, I don't know. If I don't stop, I'll be here for another hour. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Wednesday-ish? Perhaps? Maybe?